Hey guys, Johnny here. Before I get into the war news, I wanted to show you this story here that came out yesterday. Out of control wildfires scorching the Texas Panhandle, and it briefly shut down a nuclear weapons facility. First of all, let's keep all of these people in our prayers that are affected by these things around the world, not just in Texas. I mean, this is going on everywhere, it seems. I mean, even the wildfires in Canada are still burning underneath the snow cover. So it's just a matter of time before that snow melts and they fire right up again. So here we go. A fast-moving wildfire burning through the Texas Panhandle grew into the second largest blaze in state history on Wednesday, forcing evacuations and triggering power outages as firefighters struggled to contain the widening flames. The sprawling blaze is part of a cluster of fires that burned out of control and threatened rural towns, where local officials spent the night shutting down roads and urging residents to leave their homes. The largest of the fires, which grew to nearly 800 square miles, jumped into parts of neighboring Oklahoma and remained completely uncontained as dawn broke, according to the Texas A&M Forest Service. Authorities have not said what ignited the fires, but strong winds, dry grass, and unseasonably warm temperatures have fed the blazes, not to mention all the drying agents they spray on everything all the time. Anyway, near Borger, a community of 13,000 people, emergency officials at one point late Tuesday answered questions from panicked residents during a Facebook live stream and told them to get ready to leave if they had not already. It was like a ring of fire around Borger. There was no way out. All four main roads were closed, said Adriana Hill, 28, whose home was within a mile of the fire. She said a northern wind that blew the fire in the opposite direction saved our butts. Yes, it did, more than likely. And guys, as you know, or maybe you don't, if you're new here, I've been right next to these wildfires here in Washington last year. And in fact, it was less than, it's about a quarter mile from us, was all. But praise God, he protected our home, protected our little enclave here, and we were spared. But many others weren't. So this is going to continue. I imagine it will continue here in my area as well. So please keep these folks in your prayers. That is a huge fire, and we are definitely in the end times. Now, on to the war news at hand, which hasn't gotten any better either. Transnistria convenes Congress of Deputies for the first time in 18 years. We talked about this the other day, that they may do this, and they've asked Russia for help. So it's official now. Transnistria, which is a Russian enclave actually in Europe, has asked for Russia for help for the first time in 18 years. Here it is. You know, it's in between Ukraine and Moldova. Of course, here's Romania. And there is a weapons depot here in Transnistria from the old Soviet Union days, and it's absolutely huge, and that's what the Ukrainians want to get their hands on. But, of course, they don't want them to do that. So the tiny autonomous region of Moldova, calling itself Transnistria, has for the first time in 18 years convened its Congress of Deputies. That Congress has voted to ask Russia for help. Transnistria addressed Russia, asking for help due to economic blockade from Moldova. The declaration was adopted by a Congress of Deputies. According to an alleged text of the declaration published by a Telegram channel, the deputies are asking Russia to carry out a complex of events to defend Transnistria and the conditions of Moldova, intensifying its pressure, taking into account the fact that over 220,000 of Russian citizens have permanent residency in Transnistrian Moldovan Republic, and the unique positive experience of the Russian peacekeeping on the Dniester and its status as guarantor and mediator in the negotiation process. The declaration reportedly also addresses the UN and various EU institutions, as well as CIS members, asking them to influence Moldova. Well, good luck with that, because they're the ones pushing Moldova, and they're pressuring Transnistria. They want to expand this war, guys, and it's pretty obvious, as Western special forces are known to be working in Ukraine. Multiple European leaders have denied any official plans to send troops in Ukraine to fight Russia, even though in private, they're making these bilateral agreements, according to Slovakia, and it could see individual NATO states sending troops to Ukraine. Well, they already have them there. Check this out from my Telegram account. Western special forces working in Ukraine. Special forces from the U.S., NATO, troops and civilians are working all over Ukraine in support of the Ukrainian forces in the war against Russia. NATO and the CIA have command and control centers all over Western Ukraine. That's in the New York Times last weekend. Huge story. U.S. troops man and operate Patriot missile batteries, and special forces are fighting on the front lines. We've seen the videos, guys. Some are saying they're mercenaries, but they're actually not. They're actually active duty NATO troops, U.S. and other countries. Now, NATO provides intelligence and directs targeting decisions against Russia. NATO is fully engaged in this war. And so this lets you know that all of these things play out by design. They have a playbook here. And Russia and the other side are working together at the very top levels. Oh, they come out and they talk against each other all the time, but it's all just a big stage show. It's just a theater play. And the Wizard of Oz is behind the curtain, pulling all the strings. And look at this. On the Ukrainian battlefield, about 20,000 foreign citizens of more than 50 nationalities are fighting on the side of Ukraine. That's from the Washington Post, one of the CIA's mouthpieces. So it's all coming out in the wash now. You have to ask yourself why. Well, because this will give Russia all the justification they need to strike the United States and NATO directly. Because it's being proven now, it's all coming out. Even if it's unofficial at this point still, that NATO has been in Ukraine since the very beginning. There's been NATO officers killed in Russian strikes, and that just gets brushed aside, never reported in the mainstream here in the West. And of course, if we report on it in the alternative media, they just call us fake news, call us liars. Anyway, here's that Moldova Transnistria Congress, the actual meeting itself, right here. One of the demands of the resolution is to address the Federation Council and the State Duma of the Russian Federation with a request to implement measures to protect Transnistria. So this could definitely expand the war into Europe. And here's a drone operator. I found this one interesting. In Ukraine, who found a UFO. I'll turn the volume down, but there it is. They were actually talking about ramming it. Pretty good size one, too. Anyway, observing the stuff going on in the battlefield, I suppose. Wow. What a time to be alive, guys. What a time to be alive. So anyway, back to this story. Slovakia warns that bilateral agreements could see individual NATO states send troops to Ukraine. Slovakia Prime Minister Robert Fico warned on Monday that some NATO and EU countries are considering sending troops to Ukraine, a step that would risk direct war between NATO and Russia. Well, like we showed you, they're already there. All kinds of them. 20,000 are fighting at foreign citizens are fighting on the side of NATO and Ukraine. So they're already there, but now they're considering making it official with these bilateral agreements. So going outside of NATO, outside of Article 5, because, you know, Ukraine's not actually part of NATO. So they can't invoke Article 5 on their behalf. So they can just sign these bilateral individual agreements with Ukraine and then be freed up to send troops and equipment and participate directly and officially in the war with Russia. So some NATO members have signed bilateral security deals with Ukraine, including Germany and the UK. But there's no indication they're considering sending troops at this time. They're already there. I already showed you that. Their special forces are for sure. So there you are. I don't know what else to tell you as far as that goes. But this war is about to get out of control really quickly. Or it could. Or they could drag it out some more. It's hard to say. But it sure seems to me with all this stuff coming out about Ukraine and all the CIA bases there, all the special forces from the U.S. that are involved there, with all this coming out, it sure seems like they're setting up justification for Russia to directly attack NATO and the U.S. And then, of course, I fully expect China to go after Taiwan at the same time. And I'm sure we would see North and South Korea start exchanging blows as well. So it's all going to erupt at once if it happens. But we shall see. God is in control, and he may have other plans. So Jesus says wars and rumors of wars, nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom.